It had been raining and raining and raining. All the Wombles who'd been tidying up the common outside the burrow came home with their fur dripping wet. Tomsk was at the front door waiting for them. His job for the day was to make sure that everything at the front of the burrow was all right. He also had to give the wet Wombles towels with which to dry themselves. Orinoco, Bungo and Wellington were so wet that the water ran off their fur and made little pools all over the floor. They were very glad to be back home and safe and warm and dry. Tomsk was busy trying to dry up the pools of water, but the strange thing was, as fast as he dried up one pool, another pool appeared.
"I say," said Tomsk, "the burrow's getting very wet. I think there's something wrong."
But the other Wombles were too busy drying themselves to take any notice.
"Come on," said Orinoco to Wellington and Bungo. "It must be tea time. Hurry up, Tomsk."
And off went Orinoco, Bungo and Wellington, but Tomsk stayed behind and scratched his head. He looked at the floor. It was very strange. And then he saw where the rain was coming from. It was coming from under the front door. Tomsk didn't know what to do. His job for the day was to make sure that everything at the front door was all right, but now everything was not all right. The rain was making the burrow more and more wet all the time.
"I better go and have a look outside," said Tomsk.
He opened the front door and looked out, but as well as the drip-drop of the rain, he could hear something else. It was a creaking sound. And then he turned round, and he saw a tree which was bending right over. It was going to fall on top of the burrow.
"I need help," said Tomsk,
and he ran to the workshop.
"Help," said Tomsk. "The rain is coming into the burrow and there's a tired tree that's going to fall on top of us."
"Oh, don't bother me now," said Tobermory. "I'm busy, Tomsk. I've got a lot of mending to do." Tomsk ran from the workshop to Great Uncle Bulgaria's room.
"Help," he said. "The rain's coming into the burrow and there's a tired tree that's going to fall on top of us."
"Don't bother me now," said Great Uncle Bulgaria. "I'm busy, Tomsk. I've got a lot of writing to do." Tomsk ran to the kitchen where Wellington, Orinoco and Bungo were helping Madame Cholet to get tea. There was a batch of cakes cooling on the rack, and everybody was busy making sandwiches. "Look, don't bother us now," they said. "We've got a lot to do." Tomsk went back to the front door. The floor was very wet, and the creaking, groaning sound of the tree was worse than ever. He said,
"If that tree falls over, it'll fall on top of the burrow. All the rain must have washed away the earth, and now the tree can't stand up any more. I shall just have to hold up the tree until the rain stops raining."
Tomsk ran outside and up to the tree. He put his back against it to stop it falling over, and began to wait for the rain to stop. Inside the burrow it was getting colder and colder.
"It's very cold in here,"
said Tobermory in the workshop, and he put down his hammer.
"How can I keep on mending things if it's too cold to work? Yeah, I'd better go and see what's happening."
"It's very, very cold in here," said Great Uncle Bulgaria in his room. "How can I keep on writing if I'm too cold to think properly? Oh, dear, 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 I better go and see what is going on." And he put down his pen and went out to the front door. Outside it went on raining and raining and raining. Tomsk was getting very wet indeed. His paws kept slipping in the mud, and the raindrops dripped off his nose. But he held on to the tired tree and pushed as hard as ever he could.
"It's jolly cold in here," said
Orinoco to Wellington and Bungo in the kitchen.
"We'll never get a nice hot tea if the stove isn't warm. That silly Tomsk must have left our front door open. Come on."
All the Wombles went to see what was happening. The front door was open, and there were pools of water everywhere. "This is Tomsk's fault," said Great Uncle Bulgaria crossly. "It is his job for the day to make quite sure that everything at the front of the burrow is all right now. Where has that silly young Womble got to?" "Well, he came to see me in the workshop," said Tobermory, "with some story about the rain coming into the burrow and a tree that was tired and going to fall over." Tobermory went on slowly, "But I said I was too busy to listen to him." Orinoco, Wellington, and Bungo looked at each other, their arms full of cups and plates.
"He told us the same story," they said, "but it didn't make any sense."
"Dear me," said Great-uncle Bulgaria. "He told me that story too, but who ever heard of a tired tree? Yes, but listen, what is that?"
Suddenly the tree had started to make the dreadful, creaking, groaning noise louder than ever.
"Help!"
called Tomsk out in the wet, dark night.
"Help! The tired tree's going to fall over and I can't hold it up much longer. Help!"
It started to lean over more and more, and it was so heavy that Tomsk could feel himself slipping and sliding.
"It's Tomsk,"
said Great-uncle Bulgaria.
"and he's in trouble. Wombles, to the rescue!"
And all of them ran out of the burrow to help Tomsk before it was too late. The Wombles all pushed together, so that when, with a last groan and a creak, the tired tree fell over, it fell to one side and didn't hurt the burrow at all.
"You're a good Womble, Tomsk,"
said Great-uncle Bulgaria.
And what a brave Womble,
said Orinoco and Bungo and Wellington.
"That tree's just what we need to make our front door fit better, so that it won't let in any more rain. Well done, Tomsk," said Tobermory.
You must have 2 helpings of tea,
said Madame Cholet in the nice warm kitchen.
because you have worked so hard and got so wet.
All the Wombles were making a great fuss of Tomsk, which was very nice. But all he could do was to yawn and yawn as he said,
"Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, but I'm like the tree. I don't think I can eat anything. You see, I'm so tired. All I want to do is to fall over too."
Tomsk wasn't really as tired as all that. In fact, he had 3 teas, and quite right too.